Hi, another Mrs. H Psychology video for revision, and this is for paper 3, gender topic. This is video 3, part 3, the role of chromosomes and hormones. So I'm doing videos for the whole gender topic, and we're up to video 3 now, the role of chromosomes and hormones. Okay, so testosterone, estrogen, and oxytocin. So what do we need to know? Right, I'm just going to get you to pause this, have a quick look at these questions, just see whether you know the answers already. We've got references to different texts up there, and then once you're finished, you can go on to the next screen, which has the answers. Okay, so pause the video, and now we're on the answers. So have a look at this. This is really background information for you. So it's 23 pairs, sex chromosomes on the 23rd pair. Probably worth you noting this as sex determining region Y. Okay, the Y chromosome carries that gene, and we start off in the female form, all of us, males as well, and then the SRY gene on the Y chromosome will trigger release of male hormones. They should anyway, and that then sets the male down the male route before they're born. That's what should usually happen, as you probably know, with certain cases. Atypical cases like the Batista family, that doesn't always happen. So do have a look at that and Google it. It's fascinating information. So this is background information. Let's see what we need. Biological perspective says that sex and gender are the same thing. Okay, so we have a masculine or feminine gender identity because of these chromosomes, the anatomy and our hormones. In other words, that our biological sex is determining our gender identity. And that's quite useful for a comparison point for other theories. So I've included it in here. Whizzing on though, general background information. We must know that the same-sex hormones occur in both males and females, but obviously in different amounts. And once things like testes and ovaries start to develop, they produce their own sex hormones, male hormones as androgens like testosterone and females as estrogens. And those will act on the brain and also cause a development of the sexual reproductive organs. Now, it's assumed that since male and female fetuses produce different amounts of these hormones, some argue that their male and female brains will develop differently. Okay, so what we need to know now is, what do these specific sex hormones do? Okay, a little bit of background still. If babies are exposed to different sex hormones in the womb, these cause physical changes, then it's strongly possible, likely, that there are also psychological changes. And what we might want to say is that these are key structural and also functional differences in the brains of males and females. So one example being the SDN, sexual dimorphic nucleus, which we believe now is larger in a male heterosexual than a female heterosexual. And actually it's the same, the female heterosexual size of the SDN is the same size as a male transsexual. So that suggests that these physical differences in the brain may be responsible for psychological differences. Okay, so what do we need to know in terms of this? Sex hormones, right, testosterone. Have a quick look at this. What you need to know is a physical influence and a psychological. Okay, so pause the video, have a quick look at that. What's our evidence? Right, well, we've got Van der Pol, female rats injected with testosterone. Testosterone became more physically and sexually aggressive. We've got Van Goosen, which is useful for estrogen later as well. The male to female transsexuals receiving estrogen treatment showed a decrease in aggression and visual spatial skills. The other way around, the females transgendering to male, the opposite, so they were receiving more testosterone, showed that altering the sex hormone, in this case testosterone, altered behaviours like aggression, so increased feelings of aggression. We also have DABs. Offenders in prison with highest levels of testosterone were more likely to be those who had committed violent or sexually motivated crimes. Okay, all suggesting that the male hormone testosterone has an effect on behaviour, for example, aggressive behaviour. However, we've got to be careful. That suggests it's a bit deterministic. Got to be careful not to assume that human behaviour is mechanical, and that we will automatically, just because you have more testosterone, it automatically means that you are more antisocial or more aggressive. That is definitely not the case. So we need to be careful and point that out. Also, there's contradictory evidence. So, for example, research like Tricker gave males 10 weekly injections of testosterone or a placebo, and they found there were no significant increases in aggression in the experimental group. So, you know, the research is not always finding that more testosterone increases aggression. Moving on swiftly to estrogen, physical influences and psychological. So pause the video, have a quick read of that. Supporting evidence. We've got Van Goosen we've used above, so do have a look at that. We can use Van Goosen here as well. And then evaluative points, objections to this concept of PMT. Okay, so pause the video, have a look at that. And then finally, oxytocin. What does it do? It reduces the stress hormone cortisol. It facilitates bonding. For example, it's released in very large quantities after childbirth to help with bonding. How does that link with stereotypes? Well, although oxytocin is produced by both males and females, it's produced massively more in females at certain points, which leads to the belief that females are more maternal, and more intimate, and males less intimate, for example. What evidence have we got? So we've got the white trout study. They measured oxytocin levels in the saliva produced by females before, during and after breastfeeding, and they found that the oxytocin was highest immediately before feeding in anticipation, decreased at the initiation, at the start of feeding, and then rose again after feeding. So implying that was necessary for this bonding process and survival really for the infant. And obviously this is, it's a very good objective measure, measuring saliva, very objective, nothing subjective about that. So it increases its scientific credibility. Evaluation though, a lot of the work done on hormones, obviously less likely to be using humans. So often a lot of the research is done on animals. But the problem with that is it does ignore the important impact of social and cultural factors on human development, which would be different to animals, human development and their behavior. So it is better if we're using human participants. It also emphasizes the biological forces, but other approaches like the social learning theory may be better at explaining things like cross-cultural differences. So, for example, we are very aware that Western societies are becoming more androgynous in behaviours, and that isn't necessarily going to be explained by biological forces. And this is page 95 of the little Illuminate revision booklet if you want more. Okay, if that has been helpful, please like it, and I will allow comments. So if there's anything I can clarify and help you with, you can always leave a comment. And now we will be going on the next video 4 will be on the atypical sex chromosome patterns.